Hello, I'm Scott Thompson, and welcome to After 10. It's been nearly 2 years now since Kim Jong-un took power in North Korea. And in that time, a number of reforms have taken place within the nation's military and its economy. Are the winds of change blowing through Pyongyang? Or are these merely signs of instability within the regime? On today's After 10, we take a look inside North Korea and at the pending challenges facing inter-Korean relations.
It has been nearly 2 years since Kim Jong-un seized power. Close to half the senior commanders in the Korean People's Army has changed under Kim Jong-un's direction in the last 2 years. By increasing exposure to outside media, Kim Jong-un has put a greater emphasis on stabilizing the livelihoods of the public and reviving the economy. We discuss the recent moves of the Kim Jong-un regime, as well as the remaining challenges facing inter-Korean relations.
Professor Kim Jae-chun, thank you very much for being on the show.
It's good to be here.
Now, it was not that long ago when inter-Korean relations seemed to be looking up. Operations at the Gaesong Industrial Complex resumed. Reunions for families separated by the Korean War were scheduled, and there was even talk of a resumption of tours to the Mount Gumgang resort. However, the pendulum swung back, as it so often does, and North Korea has now returned to its hardline stances. Some say this is because the hardliners in the North are gaining more influence. What do we know about the current political orientation of the North Korean leadership?
Well, I'm not really sure whether these key players, these new power players, hardliners or soft liners, or I'm not really sure of their ideological predilection for that matter. But one thing I noticed is that these new players, as well as Kim Jong-un himself, has been very unpredictable and inconsistent in terms of South Korean policy. Because at one point, as you mentioned, it seemed as though they were willing to risk the nuclear war on the Korean Peninsula. But at some other points, it seemed as though they were really sincere about dialogues and cooperation. So they have been really unpredictable. Of course, Kim Jong-il was unpredictable, but in my opinion, I think there was some semblance of predictability with regard to Kim Jong-il's rule. You just mentioned that they canceled this meeting of separated families only days before the scheduled meeting. Why? I guess there are all these speculations. But one possible interpretation is that, there are some hardliners in the military, and they aren't really happy with the way the inter-Korean relations have been unfolding, because they might think that North Korea has been giving in too much to South Korea. We are not in charge of inter-Korean dialogue as of now. South Korea is in charge. So maybe Kim Jong-un felt the need to sort of allay the concerns of the hardliners in the military, but it's all speculation. Yeah.
You speak about the speculation now. The speculation about 2 years ago was that this hereditary succession to Kim Jong-un would not go very smoothly. We've got about 2 years now of perspective to look back on. Do you think the regime has now found a place of stabilization, or is there still some instability within the leadership there?
Well, my answer is yes and no, actually. Yes, to the extent that the regime has solidified its power base in North Korea. It has consolidated its power by a series of purges and reshuffles. So I think Kim Jong-un now has rather firm control over the military. And there is not going to be any serious challenge to Kim Jong-un, at least for the time being. But on the other hand, Kim Jong-un regime has these dual objectives of retaining nuclear weapons and improving economic situations at the same time. But this isn't just going to happen. Unless you give up nuclear weapons, there is not going to be any international help to improve North Korean economic situation. So because of this incompatible nature of dual objectives, if you will, I think there is this constant possibility of, I think this incompatible nature will work as a destabilizing factor down the road.
Some North Korea watchers say that the center of power seems to have shifted, or seems to be shifting at least, from the National Defense Commission to the Workers' Party. What are we to make of that? When you see what's going on there, do you see that as being something that might be taking place?
I think there is a change. I think it's the locus of power is actually shifting from the military to the party. I mean, if you take a look at how Kim Jong-il had ruled the country, it was basically a military-first policy. But it seems to me that Kim Jong-un is relying more on the official party lines rather than on military. And then he's trying to expand the party apparatuses and trying to involve all these official party lines and official consultation channels to arrive at certain decisions. So that, I think, is a noticeable change. That, I think, is one aspect that separates the system of Kim Jong-un from that of Kim Jong-il.
And if that shift is in fact taking place, what's the motive there? What are they trying to do with that?
I guess the intention there is to sort of legitimize his rule because his father, Kim Jong-il, the military policy is not the right way to do it. I mean, after all, party is the highest official policy-making entity. So I'll be different from my father. I'll be using these official party lines to make all these important decisions. So in a way, I think he tries to sort of separate himself from Kim Jong-il to a certain extent, and he tries to legitimize his rule. I'll be using these official party lines, and I'll be sort of using these party lines to sort of control the military by way, So I think those are the motivations. Yeah.
One way that Kim Jong-un may be trying to separate himself from his father is through economic reform. The North recently decided to adopt a new economic policy. What is the aim there? What is the leadership trying to do?
I think they know that their economies are in shambles, so there is an agreement that they will have to reform the economy based on capitalist market principles. So the objective of this new plan is to sort of minimize the roles of the government in running businesses and to expand the independent and autonomous sphere of these individual companies. So from production to sales to employment, now it's going to be the responsibility of these individual companies, not the government. So this, I think, is rather drastic measure to sort of adopt these capitalist, the fundamental tenets of running the economy based on capitalist, market principles.
I guess the question that remains to be answered and may be difficult to answer is what kind of changes can we expect, and how successful do you suspect that they will be?
I think this is still a plan. And I think this is the plan still, which is at an embryonic stage. So I think we have yet to see whether Kim Jong-un will really try to put this policy idea into practice, whether he will put in some good faith efforts to implement this plan. If he does, I think it'll take a while, actually a long while, for this plan to take some meaningful effect. And with the marginal experiences with the capitalist economy, with the marginal knowledge with the market, I think North Korea will encounter a lot of difficulties down the road. So I'm a little bit skeptical that this plan would bring about a genuine change to the socialist system that they have as of now. Yeah.
And there is reason to be skeptical. We've seen this before. Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, introduced economic reforms back in 2002. How does this economic policy change under Kim Jong-un differ from the one that we saw under Kim Jong-il?
This one is more revolutionary in thinking. This one is more drastic in the sense that they try to virtually eliminate the roles of the government, try to eliminate the control and planning of the government and respect the roles played by the individual companies, this autonomous sphere, if you will, of the individual companies. So from the production, as I said before, the procurement of raw materials, production, employment, pricing, and also sales. Now it's the responsibility of the individual company. So this is rather a drastic idea, but I don't think military will be, the hardliners would be very happy about this idea.
As I mentioned, July 1st, the July 1st economic reforms under Kim Jong-il back in 2002, they failed. When we look at those reforms, why did they fail, and what is, I guess, the lesson to be learned there?
I think when that idea began to surface in North Korea, I think it was the year 2002,
Right.
And I think that idea was too drastic for that specific time period. So it wasn't really well received by these reactionaries, particularly in the military. And if my memory serves me correct, that the major architect of that plan was Jang Bong-ju, and he was unseated because of the backlash and because of the opposition from the reactionaries. So in order for this plan to succeed, Kim Jong-un has to deal with these, reactionaries in the military.
In terms of success, though, you don't sound very optimistic that this is going to go all that smoothly.
Well, as I said before, they have very limited knowledge and experiences with the capitalist system. And without opening your economy to the world, without getting some help to improve your economic situations, I don't think this plan will work. But I'm not really sure whether North Korea is ready to open up their economy. And they're not going to receive any international help unless they give up their nuclear weapons. But I'm not sure whether they are willing to give up their nuclear weapons at this stage.
That's inside North Korea. Here inside South Korea, the Ministry of Unification recently announced a second basic plan for North Korea policy, inter-Korean relations. That was last month. Basically, this is a blueprint for how the Park Geun-hye administration is going to approach inter-Korean relations for the remainder of her time in office. If you would, lay out this plan and what it aims to do.
As you said, I mean, this plan defines and details President Park Geun-hye's policy toward North Korea, known as trust politic or trust process. So rather than trying to look at new areas of cooperation between the two Koreas, rather than looking into the new possibilities, this plan emphasizes the importance of carrying out the existing agreements that had been entered into between the two Korea. And by carrying out these small agreements, however small they may be, we can build the trust. And with this trust, we can make a meaningful change down the road. So as you said, this really is a manifestation of President Park Geun-hye's North Korean policy, I guess.
This plan does not include language on denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. It doesn't mention a special peace and cooperation zone as well in the West Sea. A lot of people took notice that those two things were absent from this plan. Why do you think that they were left out?
Denuclearization is actually included. I mean, critics are saying that it is not included, but it is actually subsumed under the rubric of the sustainable peace objective. So I believe that denuclearization is actually dealt as a part of a sustainable peace objective. Sure that establishing a peaceful Yellow Sea zone is not included. But think about it. I mean, after all these controversies over NLL, Northern Line Limit, I don't really think this is politically feasible to pursue, establishing peaceful Yellow Sea zone as of now. So that I think is excluded for that reason. And if I recall correctly, transforming ceasefire agreement into proposal, that was addressed by the first plan written by the Roh Moo-hyun government, but that the discussion about the ways in which we can transform ceasefire agreement into peace proposal is also not included. I guess the rationale here is that, well, we'll have to establish peace first. There isn't peace. If there aren't any peace contents, what's the use of writing peace agreement? So we will have to establish some sort of enduring peace before we write the peace proposal. So I think the whole idea is that we really have to start small and take a gradualist approach. We're not giving up on unification of the Korean Peninsula. We are aiming at unification, but we will get there by taking small step after another. We will get there by keeping small promise after another. So I think this incrementalist approach, if you will, is the major characteristic of Park Geun-hye's unification policy, Park Geun-hye's policy toward North Korea.
If and when unification comes, China will likely play a role one way or another. In the South Korea-China summit, at the APEC summit this past week, Chinese President Xi Jinping made it very clear that he is in opposition to North Korea's nuclear program. When you look at North Korea-China relations right now and the way they've gone in recent months, what do you see? How do you assess that?
I think there has been a noticeable change with regard to Chinese attitude to North Korea. As far as nuclear weapons are concerned, as you said during the APEC meeting, President Xi Jinping made it very clear that there was a wrong thing for North Korea to develop nuclear weapons. And China is strongly opposed to another nuclear test by North Korea. So as far as nuclear weapons are concerned, I think Chinese leaders are trying to send a very strong signal to North Koreans. But that said, I still think North Korea has a strategic value to China. This strategic value as an important buffer zone in this era of Sino-US rivalry still weighs in very heavily in the minds of these Chinese leaders. So I really don't think Chinese leaders would push too hard because they have these two objectives as far as North Korea is concerned. They have two dual objectives toward North Korea. One is keeping stability and one is denuclearization. Which one comes first? Of course, stability comes before denuclearization. So I really don't think Chinese leaders would push North Koreans to a point where this push, their policy toward North Korea would undermine the stability of North Korea, hence the stability of the region.
These would certainly be topics for discussion if President Xi Jinping and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un were to have a summit. They haven't had one yet. They haven't sat down and talked about these things yet. Why do you think that is? And if you could maybe speculate, do you think we'll see one anytime in the near future? I know it's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, it's a speculation.
Sure.
Some say that President Xi Jinping refuses to meet Kim Jong-un because Xi Jinping and Chinese leaders are very unhappy about the nuclear test last year. So trying to send this warning signal to North Korean leaders, to Kim Jong-un. That's one line of interpretation, and some others are still saying that, well, how old is Kim Jong-un? Kim Jong-un is way too young to qualify as, legitimate or equal diplomatic counterpart to Xi Jinping. As you said, these are all speculations, and in my opinion, I think there will be a summit meeting between President Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un down the road. We just don't know when and in what context, but I really think there is going to be a summit meeting. That's my speculation, basically. But I really don't think that President Xi Jinping is refusing to meet Kim Jong-un to penalize North Korean wrongdoings, to send a warning signal that you shouldn't. There shouldn't be any nuclear tests down the road.
The six-party talks, another hot topic that's really heated up again in recent weeks and months. The Korea, U.S., and China have all weighed in on that. China seems to be pushing the position that it wants the six-party talks to resume without any preconditions. South Korea and the U.S. Have made it very clear they will not re-engage in these talks unless the North takes steps toward denuclearization. What is your outlook on the resumption of the six-party talks?
Well, my outlook is that the six-party talk is not going to resume in any foreseeable future. because, as you mentioned, South Korea and the United States are very adamant about these preconditions. Preconditions being that North Koreans should make these genuine moves toward denuclearization. Unless there is a move, genuine move toward denuclearization, there's not going to be any six-party talk. But that said, if North Korea makes any symbolic move or make any positive announcements, those might be taken as a substantial move on the part of North Koreans, because in American foreign policy making circle, there is a criticism that the Obama administration's policy toward North Korea has been too negligent. I mean, it hasn't been really a strategic patience, it has been strategic negligence. So given this line of criticism, if North Korea makes any symbolic move, that might actually jumpstart the six-party talk. And North Korea might make their symbolic move because their economy is in shambles, and they know that unless they receive some help from the international community, there's not going to be any turnaround in their economic situation. So they might make some symbolic move.
President Park Geun-hye is promoting the trust-building process on the Korean Peninsula. What do you think is the most important factor for her administration as it tries to get some steam, get some momentum behind this process? What do you see as being the most important factor for them moving forward?
It's not going to take any effect in any time soon. So I think it is really important for the Park Geun-hye government to stay the course, because there is really a low stock of trust between the North and South. So it's going to take a long while for both countries to build trust capital and to bring about meaningful changes to inter-Korean relations. So in order for the Park Geun-hye government to be able to do that, I think it is very important for the Park Geun-hye government to garner the support from the international community as well as from the domestic audience. I think Park Geun-hye government has so far done a pretty good job of mobilizing support from Chinese leaders and also from American leaders. So I also think it is very important for the Park Geun-hye government to operationalize all these low-level cooperation channels with North Korea, and also provide these humanitarian aids to North Korea, regardless of the political situations. I think these efforts should go on without the political situations, regardless of the political situations in South Korean domestic politics, and also regardless of the political situations between the North and South. I think that way Park Geun-hye government will be able to mobilize more support from the domestic audience here.
Certainly complicated matters, of course, never any easy answers when we're talking about North Korea, but we do appreciate you being on the show and providing your insights today. Professor Kim, thank you very much.
Well, it's very nice to be here. Thank you.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time, After 10.